Hello, Professor. This is Rachel Lottie. I'm here to do my persuasive speech regarding pro-choice for abortion. Here's my audience. I have Cindy and Rochelle over there. Hope you are having a lovely evening today. So I'm just going to get right into it. Today I'm here to discuss the importance of pro-choice for abortion. Choice, an act of selecting or deciding when you are faced with two or more possibilities. Life, the existence of an individual human being. Responsibility, the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or having control over someone. Creating life is a choice of responsibility, and it is a choice that everyone should be able to make. Before I get too far into this subject, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the complexity of it. It is not a black and white situation. Choosing between life and choosing between abortion is a very grave decision to make, and it is a very sensitive subject. I acknowledge that, and I also acknowledge the importance and the responsibility that goes into it. So before I get too into my speech, I also want to show you some of my props here. To start, I have a poster that was posted from Planned Parenthood. It reads, half of all pregnancies in the U.S. each year are unintended. 4 in 10 of those are ended by safe and legal abortions, and 3 in 10 women in the U.S. have had an abortion. And you can see here the abortion rate in 2011 was the lowest rate since abortion became legal. And much of this decrease is because of improved contraception. Here, I also have a very controversial ad. Mommy didn't abort me, and now I can die in a war just like she did. Every fetus has a Jesus-given right to mature and get killed for oil. Now, let me also acknowledge that I'm aware this ad may have a completely different purpose. I just saw it, and I thought that it was a very controversial and very powerful image. And there is maybe some truth behind it, but I also understand it is very sensitive. And then for my third prop right here, I have an image of a woman who is pregnant, and she is balancing the weight of choice on her head here. And I just feel like that is also a powerful image to use and is free to interpret however you choose so. So today I will discuss my views on the physical responsibility of choice, discuss possible causes that someone may look into a late term or do a late term abortion, and discuss the emotional gravity of choice and long-term effects. So to start, let's discuss the physical responsibility with this choice. As a parent, I could not imagine the devastation that I would feel if I lost a child. And after having a child, if I had to choose to abort a child, the gravity of that decision would live with me for the rest of my life. And I am sure there are countless women who feel the same as I do. So when a woman makes this choice, I'm sure it is not a lighthearted decision, and it is a very difficult and personal one. There are a lot of factors to consider. Every situation is unique. Every human being, every woman, and every family is unique, and they all have their own choices and their own obstacles that they face. Let's say, hypothetically, you are pregnant, and a doctor tells you that having this child is either going to cause you physical bodily harm or death, or that having this child may cause physical harm or death to the child itself. Or let's say this child may be very sick, may be able to survive but not actually live. What would you do? What would you tell that person? You can't choose to have an abortion? You can't choose to spare your child from a life of pain. Let me remind you again, every situation is unique. And with a subject so sensitive as this, how could anyone possibly put it in one little box and say this is right or this is wrong? The physical responsibilities of raising a child are enormous, and no one fully understands what those responsibilities are until you take them on. It affects everything, every choice you make, everything you do, every person you interact with. Your child in your mind is a factor in what you do. So yes, I believe that you should have a choice if you're willing to take that responsibility on. I am going to begin with a quote that I read from an article written by Naomi Wolf. Rolling back abortion rights would merely ease lawmakers' consciences, while many women and more late-term fetuses than are aborted now would die in back alleys. Deaths as agonizing as those pro-lifers have been so graphically describing. No woman, we should argue, should have to make the terrible choice of a late abortion if there's any alternative. And these late abortions are more likely to occur when 80% of women have to travel outside of their country to end a pregnancy for their own reasons. Moving on to my next point. I want to talk about possible causes for late-term abortion. Just as I discussed, everyone is unique, every situation is unique, and one woman may not have the resources that another may have. Depending on where they live, the cultural factors, the religious factors, there are countless factors to go into this situation. Accessibility is a huge problem. Not every woman is able to go and have a healthy abortion if they needed one. So then they choose to do it any way they can because they feel trapped. So they choose to do it in an unhealthy way. Moving on, I'm going to read a quote from another article I read by Marshall. Abortion is one of the most common surgical procedures performed on women in the United States, with at least 3 in 10 women experiencing at least one abortion by age 45. Nearly half of all pregnancies are unintended, and about 4 in 10 of these are terminated by abortion. 22% of all pregnancies end in abortion. Each year, 2% of women of childbearing age have an abortion. Most of the research on abortion focuses the impact of anti-abortion laws enacted by states to reduce the incidence of abortion. Of equal interest is the question of whether states with restrictive abortion laws also have policies that improve the health and well-being of the children after their birth. And then this is where I move on to my last topic, the responsibility long-term and the emotional gravity that has. Long-term effects on your psyche, let's say you choose to have the abortion, that will live with you forever. Let's say you have the child, they will literally, physically live with you forever. Or if you choose to be brave and strong and put them up for adoption, you're always going to wonder where they are. If that is something that's going to affect you forever, I believe you should have the right to that personal choice. I'm going to read my last quote, written by Ellison. Harrison began her groundbreaking 1983 study, Our Right to Choose, by placing abortion in socio-political context. As a feminist ethicist, she posed the fundamental question this way: who shall control the power to reproduce the species? As she pointed out, only women can get pregnant. It has been men almost exclusively who have interpreted the morality of and made the laws about abortion. Even more telling, she argued, all the intricate social systems that characterize life are institutions, mores, and customs, and all the varied religious sacralizations of these systems throughout all recorded history have been shaped inherently to control women's procreative power. Let that sink in for a minute. Think about that. The physical responsibility of having a child or aborting a child, the possible causes for late-term abortion, and the long-term effects it will have on that human being, on that mother, on that woman, and also on that father, and the emotional gravity of that choice. Here's a quote written by Justina Chen Headley. There must be a few times in life when you stand at a precipice of a decision, when you know there will forever be a before and an after. I knew there would be no turning back if I designated this moment as my own prime meridian from which everything else would be measured. This topic is a difficult one, sometimes an impossible one. However, the ability and the right for a woman and her partner to make that choice is a necessary one. Thank you for your time. I hope you have a lovely evening.